Chapter 61. The young master's calculation has been fulfilled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's not good. It's not good. An exclamation came from outside the door. Su Yiling opened her eyes with a trace of doubt on her face. Something big happened. Did the evil race invade? Thinking about this, Su Yiling's scalp went numb and she quickly stood up. The young master's calculations came true so soon. Su Yiling opened the door, looked at the one who screamed, and asked, "What's the matter?" "Saintess, it's not good. The heavenly underworld sect has surrounded us from all directions, saying that he wants to avenge their dead elders and wash Jade Lake Palace with blood." Su Yiling snorted coldly when she heard the voice of the female disciple. "Avenge? Are they afraid of being beaten? Where are they now?" Su Yiling asked. "Saintess, they are outside the great array and keep clamoring," said the female disciple. "Did they attack?" No attack, kept clamoring. Obviously, it was deliberately baiting the people inside to go out. Their elders died tragically. With the character of heavenly underworld sect master, he would never come forward to provoke. There must be a conspiracy. I must be careful. Su Yiling muttered and made a decision. Pass my order. No one can go out of the great array, wait for the master to come back to decide. Saintess, we have several disciples who have fallen into their hands. Now, in front of disciples in public, the female disciple couldn't go on. Damn it. Su Yiling clenched her fists and creaked. If that's the case, then they should drop dead. After that, Su Yiling quickly ran out. A moment later, she came to the square and stood on the edge of the great array. Seeing the scene before her, fits of anger rushed up from the soles of her feet and hovered over her chest. She saw that several female disciples were bound to pillars and surrounded by several male cultivators. Woo-woo, the sound of tears resounded throughout the square through the sound array. When she saw the scene female disciples were in, her face were filled with shame and anger. Saintess, let me destroy them. Saintess, let me save the sisters. One of the disciples stood up and bowed down before her, asking to fight. Su Yiling waved her right hand, and all the disciples calmed down. She calmly looked ahead and stepped out of the array. There was a sound. A trap array enveloped Su Yiling in an instant. Ha! The heavenly underworld sect master looked up to the sky and laughed. I didn't expect that the saintess of Jade Lake Palace was so retarded and could not stand a little stimulation. Now, with you in my hand, can't Luo Luyen give in easily. The heavenly underworld sect master looked at Su Yiling very proud. Di Ming, with your character, you don't have such courage. Let's talk. What's your purpose? Su Yiling said as she looked at heavenly underworld sect master. What nonsense, Luo Luyen killed our elder, how can I not avenge this hatred? Seeing Su Yiling's calmness, there was a trace of worry on the face of heavenly underworld sect master. Oh, only you, do you dare? Su Yiling smiled and said faintly, since you don't want to say it, I have plenty of ways to make you speak. What? Make me speak. Heavenly underworld sect master was taken aback first, then just laughed. The turtle in the jar is still talking loudly, too funny, The elders and disciples of the heavenly underworld sect also laughed. Being a weapon for the hands of others but still act so stupid. After speaking, Su Yiling raised her finger and tapped it lightly. Gotcha, the array that enveloped her body broke apart. Sect Master Heavenly Underworld's pupils shrank, and his face changed drastically. He was preparing to retreat. But now Su Yiling had already stood in front of him, her jade finger lightly tapped. Bang, there was a loud noise. The heavenly underworld sect master was like a broken kite, flying upside down, sprinkling rain of blood on the sky. Boom, he fell to the ground and disturbed the dust. Only one blow already caused severe injury. When the disciples of the heavenly underworld sect saw this scene, they were all frightened in place. This. How was this possible? The sect master couldn't even stop a finger in front of this girl. This. What to do? They looked at Su Yiling, their faces full of fear. Su Yiling ignored these, she looked at the heavenly underworld sect master. Save me, sect master. Heavenly underworld spit out a mouthful of blood. After struggling several times, he couldn't stand up. He pointed to Su Yiling. You, hee. Su Yiling smiled slightly, pointed her right hand, and the tied female disciple was all free. Wait, go back to the great array first. Yes, Saintess. These female disciples quickly flew back to the array. Whoosh, Su Yiling turned around. Before heavenly underworld sect master could react, she stood in front of sect master of heavenly underworld sect and stepped on his chest with one foot. Kacha, his chest seemed to be pressed by Mount Tai, and several of his bones broke. Ah, heavenly underworld sect master let out a scream. You only get one chance. Say, who is behind this? Su Yiling asked. I will say it, the heavenly underworld sect master repeatedly begged for mercy. The touch of pride in his mouth was fleeting. Suddenly. What a big tone. The heavenly underworld sect master's body burst open, turned into light and shadow, and disappeared without a trace. Su Yiling's face changed drastically, and she was about to move. At this time. There was a shock. A crimson cage enveloped Su Yiling in an instant. She touched it lightly, and her hands were burnt black. Lai Yu's prison cage. Su Yiling's face changed drastically, and she exclaimed. You have some knowledge. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a red body appeared not far away. Beside him, heavenly underworld sect master followed him like a licking dog. You are the sect master of the Blaze sect, Lai Yu. As soon as these words came out. Within the large array of Jade Lake Palace, there was an instant wave. What? Blaze sect. 7th class Blaze sect. Is this the end of our Jade Lake Palace? 2 7th class sects besiege us. What should we do? Let's hurry to save the Saintess and fight with them. Shut up, the Saintess said. Everyone is forbidden to attack without her order. All the disciples in Jade Lake Palace were staring at Su Yiling, and their faces were worried. Little doll, you have a bit of knowledge. Let's talk. Where is Luo Luyen? Lai Yu said. If my master is here, you will definitely die. If you know it, let me go quickly. Su Yiling said. Little doll, at this moment, you still dare to threaten me. After speaking, Lai Yu waved his right hand. Swoosh, a ball of flame hit Lai Yu's prison cage. Strands of red flame, like silk thread, penetrated into the center of Su Yiling's eyebrows. Ah! Su Yiling gripped her head and screamed up to the sky. The scream was indistinct and incomparably mournful. Saintess! All the female disciples stood in the array and shouted. Everyone clenched their fists, their chests undulating violently. I will fight you. Dare to attack the Saintess, crush them. All the female disciples lost their sanity completely. As they were about to rush out of the great array. Halt! The great elder let out a loud roar at this time, awakening the disciples. Chapter 62. Shocking swordsmanship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Little girl, I don't want to torture you either. If you know it, say it quickly. Also, where is the godly cunning immortal behind her? Said Lai Yu. Hee, it turns out that you are actually looking for death. Su Yiling sneered. We don't know whether we will die or not, but if you don't say it again, you may face your death soon, he said. This was just finished. Is it? There was a sound. A silver-haired man who carried a heavy sword walked out of the Jade Lake Palace step by step. What? There is a man in the Jade Lake Palace. Fuck it, what about the ruthless Dao? Was it a lie? My pure love is gone. The disciples of the heavenly underworld sect were full of bitter expressions staring at Qin Daoming. That kind of envy and jealousy could almost kill him. The corner of Qin Daoming's mouth raised, and he stroked a handful of silver hair with an arrogant expression, could only bully a girl. Let her go, come at me if you dare. You red hair, what are you looking at? It's you. Looks like a flamingo, but aren't you embarrassed attacking a girl? Qin Daoming pointed at Lai Yu and said. You. Die. Lai Yu gritted his teeth and rushed towards Qin Daoming. For a while, two people scuffled together. Ding, sound of metal clanging was constantly heard. The sound of terrifying explosions was endless. The cultivator who was close by was directly severely injured by the aftermath. The longer it took, the more intense the fight. Lai Yu was pressured by Qin Daoming without power to fight back. This. How is that possible? What is his physical body made of? It is harder than a medium-grade spirit weapon. It hurts me. How can I encounter this monster? How can I kill him? It's troublesome. Lai Yu murmured, with a bitter expression on his face. Boom, there was a loud noise. The two were separated. Lai Yu was knocked back, and it took a lot of strength to stabilize his figure. Poof, one mouthful of blood spitted out. He looked at Qin Daoming with fear on his face. Humph, he can't beat me if he suppresses his own strength like this. It's a waste. Qin Daoming sighed secretly and then stared at Lai Yu with a sneer. Boom, he kicked his right leg, hitting the air with constant exploding sound. After just one step, he stood in front of the Lai Yu. Since you are willing to be a thug, then die. After speaking, Qin Daoming raised his foot and stomped down towards Lai Yu. My lord, help me. Seeing this scene, Lai Yu was so scared that he shouted loudly. Stop. With a loud show, a figure came quickly. In an instant, he stood in front of Qin Daoming. He was 2 meters tall, and his strong muscles seemed to break through his armor, his whole body exuded an aura of destruction. He covered his face, so people were unable to see his appearance. He glanced at Lai Yu, and his voice was cold, huh, what a waste. Then, the masked man stared at Qin Daoming and looked at him carefully. In the early stage of void transformation, he was a realm lower than himself. It was indeed better than that waste, Luo Luyen. Luo Luyen, it turns out that you are just a green tea bitch, 1. Finding a lover that is not even as good as me, you are just pretending to be noble. The masked man muttered to himself and shook his head for a while. Today, see how I killed your lover. Thinking of this, the masked man raised his mouth and said, boy, let him go. Oh, what if I don't? Qin Daoming said. Then you will be dead. The masked man said. Really? After speaking, Qin Daoming raised his foot and stamped it down severely. No, don't you dare. 2 loud shouts sounded at the same time. Gotcha, Lai Yu's skull cracked, red and white things were scattered as he was killed on the spot. Quiet. It was tranquil. Everyone stared at this scene blankly and couldn't believe it. The 7th class sect master was stomped to death. Can't even resist a bit. All the disciples of the heavenly underworld sect were so scared that their expressions changed drastically. When the heavenly underworld sect master was there, the heavenly underworld sect was the 6th class sect. Now that the heavenly underworld sect master was dead, the sect has naturally fallen to the 7th class sect. In the whole sect, who was this guy's opponent? What to do? Many people's legs trembled, and their complexions changed again. Escape. What was the difference with death? The masked man looked at Qin Daoming angrily. He pointed to Qin Daoming, good, good. Since you want to die so much, I will help you. After speaking, the masked man rushed towards Qin Dao Ming. The two men fought fiercely. Ding, the metal clanging sounded continuously. Neither of them used weapons and relied on just their flesh strength. Their flesh was indestructible like a magic weapon. The onlookers looked at the scene, dumbfounded. Boom, there was a loud noise, and they separated. The two people looked at each other. Damn, how could he be physically stronger than me? The masked man's right hand was trembling. His face was full of disbelief. What I practice by myself is the strongest physical body cultivation method in the Supreme Court. With blood, I can crack the middle-grade spirit weapon with bare hands. Although the realm was only up to the early stage of Mahayana, even if I encounter a perfection Mahayana realm cultivator, I can kill him with my bare hands. Now, in the face of a brat who was in the early stage of void transformation, he didn't even have the power to fight back. How was this possible? Does it hurt? The pain proves that you are still alive. If you only have these ticks, you can die. Qin Dao Ming held the long sword in his hand and began to draw his sword. Humph, just a little trick, die. The masked man rushed towards Qin Dao Ming. At this time, the long sword was pulled out slowly. The sound of a long sword rubbing its scabbard sounded, making people's ears ring. The horrifying sword intent, centered on Qin Dao Ming, jolted in all directions. It was like a vast mountain exploding. Boom, a group of cultivators who were close to was like cannonballs, blasted into all directions. Those with low strength were directly shaken into ash and disappeared on the spot. Boom, there was no exception for the masked man. He was struck hard and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Before the sword was pulled out, he was seriously injured. He looked at Qin Dao Ming and shook his head again and again, with a look of disbelief. How can he have such a powerful sword intent? It's fake. It must be fake. Ha! Qin Dao Ming retracted the long sword and stood in front of the masked man. Do you know the biggest difference between you and a pig? The masked man's chest tightened, and there was nothing to say. The biggest difference is that pigs have always been pigs, and you can't even compare to pigs. After speaking, Qin Dao Ming lifted his foot and kicked hard. Boom, the blood spilled, and the masked man flew horizontally on the ground. He curled up like a shrimp and looked miserable. At the corner of his mouth, black and red blood kept flowing. He was losing his vitality rapidly. A kick made the masked man suffer a severe injury. He fought against me and was still hiding his strength. His strength is so terrifying. It is troublesome. Thinking about this, the masked man's scalp numb. He took a deep breath and yelled vigorously. Chai Yuanshu, what else are you looking at? Come and save me. The sound rolled out like thunder. Seemingly innocent and charming, but dissipated and superficial. The sly version of White Lotus. Chapter 63. The running dog of the evil race shows their true color. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A burst of hearty laughter came from the void. There were waves of transparent ripples in the sky. When a figure pierced the ripples, stood in the sky. Dressed in white, he looked handsome, elegant and stylish. He was precisely the disciple of the Supreme Court, Chai Yuanshu. Chai Yuanshu looked at Ho Xing and shook his head for a while. Ho Xing, you are so useless. You can't even beat an early-stage void transformation realm cultivator. If you are amazing, then come. Ho Xing pressed down his wound and roared loudly. Come on. After speaking, Chai Yuanshu's figure flashed. He instantly appeared behind Qin Dao. Before Qin Dao could respond, he gently raised his hand and pressed it with one hand. There seems to be no power, however. Boom, Qin Dao Ming flew out like a broken kite. Bomb, he fell to the ground, spit out a mouthful of blood, then fainted. What? A knock. How could this be possible? Ho Xing looked unbelievable. Haha. Chai Yuanchu smiled slightly, not paying attention. Quickly break through the array and catch them. At that time, you won't be afraid that Luo Luyen will not be obedient by catching them. Chai Yuanchu said. Great. Ho Xing took out some pills and swallowed two with a painful expression. His physical injury was recovering quickly. Despite this, his arm could not grow out. He struggled to his feet, grinning with pain. Chai Yuanchu looked into the distance and shouted, "You too, what else are you looking at? Hurry up and lead the sect disciples to attack the great array." Yes. The sect master of the heavenly underworld and the fire prison sect waved their hands as tens of thousands of flash of lights flew quickly and fell to the front of the Jade Lake Palace. Attack! Chai Yuanchu waved his right hand, and the tens of thousands of cultivators moved at once. Tens of thousands of rays of light flew towards the Jade Lake Palace like a meteor. It was overwhelming that people who saw it had their scalps like in pins and needles. Boom! There was a loud noise and a violent tremor. Gotcha! Above the great array, a crack spread downward. No, the great array is going to be broken. What should I do? Master hasn't returned yet. Sisters, swear to live and die with Jade Lake Palace, prepare to fight to the death. Yes, great elder. The neat voice resounded throughout the Jade Lake Palace. Every female disciple's face showed a resolute color. They held their long swords tightly and mobilized their internal strength. Boom! Tens of thousands of rays of light blasted above the great array again. Gotcha! The extraordinary lines spread around like a spider web. With another blow, the great array must be broken. Strike hard and break the array. Yes. Every cultivator used all their strength to mobilize their body's strength and started to attack. Shout! Tens of thousands of rays of light illuminated the entire sky and fell rapidly. Boom! There was a loud noise. The entire array burst apart in an instant. Kill! Thousands of disciples of the Jade Lake Palace raised their sword and rushed out. However, as soon as they took a step, they stopped. They saw that the great array was condensing in the sky and once again enveloped the entire Jade Lake Palace. The great array protection soon fully formed and recovered as before. This. Not only the disciples of Jade Lake Palace but also many cultivators outside the array were stunned. What? Recovered? How is this possible? Is this a dream? How can a 7th class sect's array be so strong? When Chai Yuanchu saw what was happening, his face changed slightly. Attack, continue to attack. Chai Yuanchu shouted. Shout! The cultivators moved again. Everyone was doing their best and attacking frantically. Once more, the array was broken. Shout! But soon, another protection array once again enveloped the Jade Lake Palace. The speed was too fast for people to react. The great array recovered as before. Watching this scene, Chai Yuanchu twitched the corners of his mouth. Chai Yuanchu. It was restored. What should I do now? Ho Xing said. Continue to attack. I don't believe it. This method can last forever. In this way, under the command of Chai Yuanchu, all the cultivators attacked crazily. After breaking through the array 5 times, many cultivators fell to the ground, breathing heavily. No, my spiritual power has been exhausted. How can this damn great array keep restoring, damn it? I can't do it anymore. I ran out of pills. Such a voice kept ringing. Chai Yuanchu clenched his fist, and his joints exploded. His face was distorted. In his eyes, black air surged. Ah! A loud roar broke through the world. Chai Yuanchu's body changed rapidly. He changed into a monster with a height of 2 meters in the blink of an eye, with sharp horns on its head and fangs in its mouth. The black energy on his body spread rapidly around him. Chai! Master Chai, turned out to be an evil race. My God, it's so terrifying. My heart seems to jump out. The cultivators all around couldn't help but back away. This. Ho Xing was paralyzed to the ground with fright, his face extremely ugly. In this way, isn't he colluding with the evil race? This crime was enough to kill him 10,000 times. It's over. Ho Xing closed his eyes with a look of despair. Chai Yuanchu looked up to the sky and howled crazily. He stepped forward and walked towards the big formation step by step. Luo Luyen, even if you have this kind of formation, so what, the old boss still can break you. After speaking, Chai Yuanchu stretched out his right paw and patted towards the great array. His claws are extremely sharp, giving off a chilling light. Punch, with a light tap, his claws pierced into the array instantly. He held it lightly. Crack. It sounded like glass cracking. The great array burst apart. This time, the great array did not recover. Luo Luyen, these disciples, I'll help you kill them. After speaking, Chai Yuanchu took a step forward and rushed towards the disciples. Seeing Chai Yuanchu, the Jade Lake Palace disciples trembled slightly with fright, and their complexions changed drastically. However, they did not retreat. Fight! The great elder roared, leading some disciples to rush over. At this time. Stop it! A soft voice shook into each disciple's ears. They all stopped, looking at the sky. Their expression stagnated. There were endless surprises in his eyes. The palace master is back. Great, the palace master is back. Chai Yuanchu seemed to find that something was wrong and looked up at the sky only to see Luo Luyen walk through the sky and fell quickly. In the blink of an eye, she fell in front of Chai Yuanchu. A smile appeared on Luo Luyen's face. The young master had really a magical plan. This evil race really appeared. Chai Yuanchu, it turns out that you are really a running dog of the evil race. Now, I will destroy you and feel at ease. Luo Luyen said with a smile. Destroy me. Chai Yuanchu was startled slightly as if he had heard her wrong. Then. Chai Yuanchu looked up to the sky and laughed. Luo Luyen, you are finally here. I was waiting. Let's talk. Where is the expert behind you? Otherwise, today will be the bloodbath of the Jade Lake Palace. After today, it will be wiped out. Chai Yuanchu said. Oh, the godly cunning immortal knows that you will come, and today, you will never leave. Luo Luyen said. At this moment, I still have to be quick-witted. In this case, I will kill you and then torture you. After speaking, Chai Yuanchu rushed over. Chapter 64. One move to destroy the corpse puppet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Luo Luyen watched Chai Yuanchu attack. Her expression never changed. She stood there calmly without, unmoved. Chai Yuanchu's paw pierced the air directly. With a harsh roar, he grabbed Luo Luyen's shoulder instantly. Die for me. Chai Yuanchu showed a touch of complacency and squeezed hard with his right hand. As someone from the evil race, his physical strength had reached a great realm. Even if a shield protected an Ascension Realm powerhouse, his shoulders would still be crushed by this blow. Thinking of this, Chai Yuanchu smiled cruelly. Boom! A burst sound was heard. Chai Yuanchu looked at Luo Luyen's shoulder. His face was full of disbelief. He saw that Luo Luyen's shoulders were still intact, and his entire palm burst open. How is this possible? He retracted his hand and looked at it. His hand was without its palm and looked aghast. In the next second, he let out a piercing scream. BL.net, bitch, you dare to harm me. Chai Yuanchu roared repeatedly, stretched out his left hand, and pounced directly at her eyeballs. Luo Luyen came first and grabbed Chai Yuanchu's left hand. This is impossible. Sensing the great force on the claws, Chai Yuanchu's face changed dramatically, and he struggled wildly. Let go of me. However, it was useless after all. You don't need this claw anymore. After speaking, Luo Luyen shook it lightly. Bang! There was a loud explosion. Chai Yuanchu's left hand directly collapsed into blood foam. This is impossible. How can your physical body be so strong? Soon as his words were finished. Another piercing scream shook the sky. Chai Yuanchu fell to the ground and kept rolling. Black air rushed out of his wound frantically and quickly enveloped the surroundings. In this case, die, you all die for me. Chai Yuanchu looked up to the sky and screamed. The black qi on his body rushed out like a fountain. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped a crowd of cultivators around. Ho Xing bears the brunt. Swish, this black qi was pervasive, quickly penetrating Ho Xing's body. Chai Yuanchu, you, Ho Xing pointed to Chai Yuanchu with a face full of unwillingness. Finally, he fell to the ground, twitched a few times, then there was no movement from him at all. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of cultivators around Chai Yuanchu died tragically on the spot. Seeing everything happen, Luo Luoyan's expression remained unchanged. The enemy was killing each other. What did it have to do with me? Shout, the black qi continued to rush and quickly penetrated the body of the cultivators. Kacha, a burst of bone friction sounded. The cultivator who had just fallen, after inhaling the black qi, stood up again. They looked dull, like zombies. The corpse puppet. The disciples of the Jade Lake Palace who watched this scene couldn't help but exclaim loudly. The corpse puppet clan was generally refining corpses. Just like him, kill the living directly and then refine into a corpse puppet. It seemed that the corpse puppet clan had changed entirely. Unexpectedly, this Chai Yuanchu turned out to be from the corpse puppet clan. Even the dean did not see it. Hiding deep enough. If you dare to come here today, then you will not leave. Children. Turn this place into a Shura hell and kill everyone. Chai Yuanchu commanded, and all the corpses moved at once. How, whenever they saw a living thing, these corpse puppets rushed over. A cultivator of the heavenly underworld sect, before he could react, was thrown on him by a puppet. Their claws were like diamond claws, and they grabbed the heart of the cultivator at once. From birth to death, that was, in an instant. After this cultivator died, the surrounding black qi quickly poured into his body. In less than a moment later, the cultivator stood up again and joined the corpse puppet's army. Such scenes were staged quickly. It was utterly a one-sided situation. There were more and more corpse puppets, but there were fewer and fewer cultivators. Humph. Luo Luyen snorted coldly and waved her right hand lightly. The palm of great love used it directly. Shout, in the sky, the true chi roared and surged. A giant hand covering the sky condensed rapidly, the terrifying pressure, straight down from the big hand. The corpse puppets were like being stuck in a quagmire under pressure, making them difficult to move. Howl, the corpse puppet kept struggling, making strange calls. Then. Bang, the explosion sounded continuous. The corpse puppets were as fragile as a piece of thin ice, cracking rapidly. After a few breaths, nearly 10,000 corpse puppets collapsed, not one left. It was dark all around. All around, there was a dead silence. Those surviving cultivators showed the joy of the rest of their lives. They looked at Luo Luyen. Their faces were full of admiration. Plop. It was unknown who took the lead, but the cultivators pointed at Luo Luyen and bowed down one by one. Thank you, Palace Master Luo, for your life-saving grace. Palace Master Luo's power is beyond everything. Your supernatural power is unparalleled in the world. Palace Master Luo has a bodhisattva heart and looks at the whole world. Who can compare? Luo Luyen completely ignored these. She fixed her eyes on Chai Yuanchu's body, cold and murderous, without any concealment. Are there any last words? Luo Luyen stepped out and instantly stood in front of Chai Yuanchu, looking at him condescendingly. He, you've taken me down like this. You and I have been together for so long, don't you even understand my character? Chai Yuanchu's face was full of sneers. Just as a running dog of an evil race like you don't deserve to be with me. Death. After speaking, Luo Luyen held a long sword and plunged into the heart of Chai Yuanchu. Splash. The long sword was drawn out. Infinite black qi rushed out of Chai Yuanchu's chest. Ah, Chai Yuanchu let out a piercing scream. The sound was like a howling ghost in hell, and it makes people's hair stand on end. Help! Chai Yuanchu let out a piercing cry. His voice was faint and spread all over the void. Shortly after. The sky trembled. Layers of airwave, shaking out. The big hand covering the sky directly exploded, turning into strands of light and dissipating. Shout, the terrifying pressure continued. Like a tsunami, Luo Luyen's body was crushed. At this moment, Luo Luyen couldn't breathe well, and her escape path was not good. When she just looked up. Shout, 4 thick black shadows appeared behind Chai Yuanchu. The shadow was so dark that even the sun couldn't penetrate it. In other words, their bodies, like black holes, absorb any light. No, it's the 4 generals of corpse puppets. Luo Luyen exclaimed as soon as this came out. What? 4 generals of the corpse puppet clan. My god, this is at the same level as the Earth Immortal, but it is only to deal with our Jade Lake Palace. I don't know what plot they have. Fight them. Inside the Jade Lake Palace, a group of disciples clenched their long swords, revealing a persistent stance. Luo Luyen, didn't you expect it? Seeing Luo Luyen's surprised look, Chai Yuanchu struggled to stand up, showing a smug expression on his face. Luo Luyen now kneels down and begs for mercy, and I can give you a happy ending. If you don't, you will definitely regret being born into this world. Support this website and read more chapter 65 to chapter 99, on Patreon. Chapter 65. Waste. You made us miserable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chai Yuanchu looked at Luo Luyen, forgetting the pain, and laughed. That proud appearance made anyone want to go up and beat the crap of him. Sure enough. Papa, a clear and crisp voice sounded. A dark shadow, fleeting, hit his face hard. Chai Yuanchu flew upside down and hit the ground. Shout, the remaining black qi in his body was also drawn away. His heart was stabbed, and his hands were shattered. Even so, he could survive by the black qi. Now, being so drawn by his own people, he was on the verge of collapse. Amidst his doubts, he revealed an aggrieved look. My lord, why are you hitting me? The voice of the Black Shadow leader was cold. You are trash. If your strength is not good, use your brain instead. Waste, you have made us miserable. Another shadow also stood out. What? Chai Yuanchu didn't believe it. How is this possible? The strength of the 4 general, let alone them. Even if it is the godly cunning immortal, wouldn't he still be killed? Chai Yuanchu said. Humph, what do you know? At this point, a black shadow stared at Chen Daoming and said, Boy, get up, don't pretend to be dead. This was just finished. Huh, Chen Daoming jumped, stood up, and let out a hearty laugh, as expected of the 4 puppets generals, indeed has some knowledgeable. He caressed a handful of his silver hair, directly took out the hatchet, and slammed it on his shoulder with a full expression. The shadow didn't answer, then she looked at Su Yiling and said, Don't pretend, little girl, you can't be trapped in that prison cage. Su Yiling's mouth raised when she heard this, exposed a look of embarrassment. She held out her finger in no hurry and pressed forward. Gotcha. A sound was heard. The prison cage collapsed into dust. Oh, acting to catch you guys is really tiring. It's better to fight directly. Su Yiling twisted her neck, shook her joints, walked forward slowly, staring at the four dark shadows calmly. In addition to Luo Luyen, the three have completely locked them down, and as long as there was a change, the thunder will surely strike. Chai Yuanchu stared at this scene blankly, looking silly. Everything today was unthinkable and entirely beyond imagination. The cultivators all around also stood there stupidly and couldn't believe it. It turned out that everything before was just to catch the corpse puppet clan. How do they know the evil race was coming? How could their strength be so strong? Push, Chai Yuanchu exhaled for a long time, vomiting out all the black breath. He fell to the ground, staring at the sky with wide-open eyes. The other side. I'm a little confused. How did you calculate that we were going to attack the Jade Lake Palace? A shadow said. Luo Luyen smiled slightly, revealing a mysterious smile. It is naturally not us who can calculate all this. Luo Luyen said. Could it be the godly cunning immortal behind you? Said the shadow. Not bad. Luo Luyen nodded as soon as this came out. PSST, there was a sound of a cold breath, one after another. Is there really the godly cunning immortal? That's terrifying. Knowing the other party's actions in advance, this kind of ability was terrifying. The human race had such a strong and powerful person. No matter how strong the evil race was, there would be no storms. Thank you for telling us. We understand. However, thank you for giving us time to escape. Next time we meet, we will never show mercy. A shadow just finished. Shout, a huge teleportation vortex appeared in front of the four of them. Seeing this scene, the faces of the cultivators changed drastically. Quick, kill them. Don't let them escape. However, it was too late. The four shadows instantly drilled into the teleportation vortex and disappeared. Looking at this scene, Luo Luyen and others had no intention of moving at all. At that moment when everyone sighed. The teleportation vortex appeared again, and the four black shadows that had just disappeared appeared in their original positions again. They're back. What's going on? A black shadow voice surprised, quivering. The four of them, back to back, were alert as they looked around. Look! At this moment, an exclamation sounded. Everyone looked up, their pupils contracted, and their faces were full of shock. They saw that a huge phantom dragon appeared in the sky. The golden light was extremely dazzling. It was highly sacred, and it made people unable to give birth to the slightest heart of confrontation. The four black shadows looked towards the sky, and the whole person's heart was sinking into hell. My God, that's the space dragon ancestor. What? The ancestor dragon of the space Dao. Isn't it dead? How is this possible? Finished, we are finished. The four shadows muttered to themselves, and despair was all over their faces. Swoosh, a long rainbow slowly fell. After landing, she turned into a blue-robed woman. It was Mu Bing. Luo Luyen and Mu Bing looked at each other and nodded slightly. In the sky, little girl, you actually know the old man. A little bit knowledgeable. But the old man dislikes guys who hide their heads and show their tails. As soon as the words were finished, the golden light in the sky, like the 9-day Milky Way, falls straight down. In an instant, four black shadows were enveloped. Shout, the black chi on their bodies instantly disappeared without a trace. They were four men with sharp mouths and monkey faces, and their faces were cold and pale. They looked very terrible as hell. They are not worth the man's action. I'll hand them over to you. The dragon spoke out, his eyes fixed directly, staring at the four corpse puppet generals as if looking down at the ants. Good. Luo Luyen finished speaking, and with a wave of his right hand, the four of them moved at the same time. Each of them locked a corpse puppet general and rushed away. Big brother, what should I do? There is no way I will definitely die. Big brother, let's attack the little girl together. She is the weakest. It's just right to pull her back, that's a good idea. After some discussion, the four puppet generals quickly rushed towards Su Yiling. Seeing this scene, Luo Luoyan's face changed drastically. Not good. Yiling, be careful. Luo Luoyan resorted to all means and rushed forward frantically. It was just. There was no time. The four corpse puppets have already come to Su Yiling. Although Su Yiling reached the late void transformation realm, the four corpse puppets were all ascendant monsters. In between, there were two great realms of Mahayana and crossing calamity. A great realm was 108,000 miles. What's more, there were three great realms now. Moreover, the four corpse puppets had been famous for a long time. For Su Yiling, a deliberate sneak attack at this moment meant life or death. But seeing them coming at her together, there was no worry. Haha, Su Yiling smiled slightly, her shallow dimples revealing the sides of her mouth, very sweet. When the four corpse puppets saw this scene, they couldn't help but look blank. A wave of anxiety rushed to their heart. They stared at Su Yiling and did not dare to move, as they saw that Su Yiling took out a picture scroll in no hurry. Chapter 66. Powerful, Supreme Holy Land. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After seeing this picture scroll, the four corpse puppets let out a sigh of relief. I was scared to death, and I thought she was holding back some great skill. Yes, it looks like this, it really looks like it. I don't see any clues. No, little girl, do you want to use a picture to deal with us? Are you trying to be funny? That's funny. The four corpse puppets shook their heads for a while. Just now, their nerves collapsed, and they used various methods to look at the scroll. No matter how they looked at it, there was no spiritual power fluctuation on the scroll. It must be no different from a mortal picture scroll. No one valued this kind of thing except for those kinds of non-cultivating trash likes. Use this mortal thing against us. Haha. However, in the next second, the faces of the four of them changed drastically, and their whole bodies trembled involuntarily. At this moment, Su Yiling had spread out the picture scroll. A snow scene appeared in front of the four of them. It was bitterly cold, and the self-painted scroll came out continuously, wrapping the four people. This is impossible. This is, so horrifying, too, terrifying. Who is it, with such strength? No, the voice of the four corpse puppets trembled and made a sound, yet unwilling to cry. As soon as their voices heard, they stopped abruptly. They turned into ice sculptures, frozen in place, motionless. Shout, a gust of wind flew out from the picture scroll. Bang, four bursts were heard. Immediately afterward, the four corpse puppets exploded from the ice sculptures, turning them into fragments and splashing them all around. Till their deaths, they didn't let out a scream. All around, it was silent. A crowd of cultivators stared at this scene blankly, unable to believe it. The heavy snow presses the green pine, and the green pine is upright and straight. Su Yiling finished the sentence. Heaven and earth a-quiver. The scroll was flying out of Su Yiling's hand, rapidly growing in the sky. When the space dragon ancestor saw this scene, his face changed slightly. Damn it, world tree, you turned into a licking dog. You turned into a green pine in the painting. Space dragon ancestors speak. These words were just passed into the painting and were not heard by anyone. Aren't you the same, willing to be bound in a sculpture? The voice came from the painting. Then, a green pine flew out of the painting and stood above Jade Lake Palace. Humph, I have a destiny with the young master. Space Dragon Ancestor snorted coldly. Oh. That's it. That's not a licking dog. The World Tree spoke without any mercy. You. Space Dragon Ancestor dumbly, coldly snorted, Humph, I'm too lazy to care about you. After these words, the Space Dragon Ancestor's figure shrank rapidly. It turned into a sculpture and flew back to Mu Bing's hands in less than a moment. Over the Jade Lake Palace. Shout, an infinite spiritual energy rushed out from the picture scroll. Howl, a hail roar. The aura formed a violent wind around the World Tree. Immediately afterward, on the World Tree, strands of light were shed. Like the 9-heaven Milky Way, pouring down. The entire Jade Lake Palace is undergoing rapid changes. As long as you stay in the Jade Lake Palace, even if you don't need to practice, the surrounding spiritual energy will flow to everyone's meridians silently. The matter was that these auras were 10 times better to absorb than top-grade spiritual stones. It's just a breath, and the increase in strength is several times faster than usual practice. At this moment, everyone was utterly stunned. This method, this ability, was extremely unimaginable. What kind of existence was the owner of this picture scroll? Buzz, in the sky, the pines were proliferating. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a 1,000-meter tree. From a distance, it looks like a giant mountain. And then, the green pine slowly fell and took root in the forbidden area of Jade Lake Palace. It looks like a world tree, standing proudly in the sky, supporting the world from a distance. The breath of life, which couldn't seem to stop, fills every corner of Jade Lake Palace. After a long time, the sky scroll gradually shrank and returned to Su Yiling's hands. At this moment, everyone froze in place, motionless. That kind of dismay. That kind of shock, written all over everyone's face. They looked at the 1,000-meter-high green pine, and its light shone. Young master, you are transforming the fate of the Jade Lake Palace. Su Yiling muttered to herself, her heart pounding, you are really omnipotent. She opened the picture scroll and found that the pine trees on it had disappeared. But the ice and snow inside were still there. Endless rime, shaking out, seems to be able to freeze everything. Young master, thank you. Su Yiling took back the picture scroll, full of emotion. A moment later, all the cultivators recovered from the shock. Fuck. Such a terrifying method is too shocking. With such a strong aura, I am afraid that the entire Tianluo continent will not be able to find such a place. That is. Even the Central Territory Holy Land is far worse than here. If I can stay here for a year, even if I don't practice, I am afraid I can break through several realms. The sound of bombing kept ringing. Mu Bing held down her beating heart and breathed a few breaths before she calmed down a little. This method is completely taking advantage of heaven and earth. Young master, what kind of existence are you? Mu Bing looked in the direction of the great demon mountain with a gleaming expression. Thinking at the beginning, she wanted to expose the young master. Thinking about it, it was a dying wish. That's completely brain dead, a suicide. Fortunately, she formed a good relationship with the young master. Young master, thank you. Luo Liuyan's eyes kept flashing constantly. It must be that after she passed the test, the young master changed the Jade Lake Palace into a supreme holy place. This great kindness was unforgettable. Withdrawing her mood, Luo Liuyan glanced away. Cold killing intent, billowing out. Those who were still in a state of dismay wake up instantly. Without thinking, they fell to my knees one by one. Palace Master Luo, you have mercy. Please be forgiving. Palace Master Luo, it's all about my greed. It doesn't matter to other disciples. Please let them go. Master Yao Qi Palace, I am greedy, but my subordinates are innocent. Please spare their lives, and I will let you handle them. the first few people knelt directly in front of Luo Luyen and kept kowtowing. "Ha, attack my Jade Lake Palace. You want me to let you go? Is it good to be bullied when I am at the Jade Lake Palace?" Luo Luoyan's voice was cold. "Palace Master Luo, we were wrong, we were really wrong, forgive us." All the cultivators, lying on the ground, shivered. Capital sins are forgiven, living sins are hard to forgive. You guys, self-destruction. The others become servants of the Jade Lake Palace, can you understand? Luo Luoyan's voice was cold and billowed. "Yes, Palace Master." Led by a few people, without any hesitation, they directly shattered their dantian. Although they had become immortal, at least they were still alive. The other cultivators knelt down on the ground, their faces grateful. "Great, we can become slaves of Jade Lake Palace, which is really a blessing from a previous life. Yes, Jade Lake Palace now has become a supreme shrine, for us becoming slaves is a good thing." Many cultivators' faces lit up. However, they overthought. "Wait, leave Jade Lake Palace immediately, stay at the foot of the mountain, and stand by at any time. If even one person escapes, all people, and you all die together." The cold voice, like a biting chill, surged over everyone. Thus, those who wanted to practice in Jade Lake Palace were like a deflated ball. Those who wished to flee also put their minds away. There were collective responsibilities, and it was impossible to escape. As for everyone fleeing together, looking for death. Like a defeated army, nearly 10,000 cultivators had their heads down, without the slightest expression. Since then, they had become slaves and could only listen to the call of Jade Lake Palace. When everyone left, Luo Luyen walked to the front of everyone and said, "Let's go to the secret room." Chen Daoming nodded together, followed Luo Luyen, and left quickly. Chapter 67. What is a few immortal gold? You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The Jade Lake Palace, in a secret room. "Everyone, do you understand what the young master means?" Luo Luyen looked at the three of them and asked. "Fellow Taoist Luo." Chen Daoming thought for a moment and said, "Just now, the transformation of the Jade Lake Palace into the supreme holy place is a reward given from the young master when we understand his intention." "Yes." Speaking of this, Luo Luyen showed a smile. Everyone has seen that the sun's methods are unimaginable, just by understanding his intention alone, there is such a good fortune. If you complete the young master's test and kill all the evil races, what reward will he give us? As soon as this came out, "Psst," the cold air whispered, and it kept surging. There was no way to imagine. Destroying the evil race must be completed. If you could become the young master's disciple, it was the same as cultivation of 1,000,000 lifetimes. Fellow Taoist Chen, in fact, we still haven't realized one thing. Luo Luyen said. "One more thing." Chen Daoming was full of doubts. "Do you still remember the moment when he talked to you about evil families?" Luo Luyen said. "Remember, when he was furious, he picked up a dead branch and threw it into the pool." Having said that, Chen Daoming seemed to think of something. "Withered branches, isn't it firewood?" It turned out that he threw firewood into the pool, alluding that Kai Yuanchu was going to attack Jade Lake Palace. It's so obvious, and we didn't even think of it. Our understanding really needs to be improved. Chen Daoming's face was full of shame. "Yes, we will definitely think more about it in the future and understand his intention." Luo Luyen looked at Chen Daoming and nodded in satisfaction. Finally, she found a guy with a good brain. Later, if they were together, there was a 50% chance that they could understand the young master's intention. As for Mu Bing, although her brain was not damaged, she always lacked something. Thinking of this, Luo Luyen looked at Chen Daoming and continued to speak. "Fellow Taoist Chen, the young master wants me to unite all the forces that can be united. So, I did not kill the Tianming sect and the disciples of the Burning Fire sect. In the future, they will be led by you. What do you think? Luo Luyen asked. No problem. Chen Dao nodded. If they do well, they have made great contributions, they can be rewarded, such as Supreme Spirit Tea, and come to Jade Lake Palace to cultivate, Luo Luyen said. Good. Chen Daoming nodded. What is the Supreme Spirit Tea? Mu Bing showed a face of doubt. That's what the young master gave to fellow Daoist Chen and ordered him to fight against the evil race. Luo Luyen said. That's true. After speaking, Chen Daoming took out all 3 bags of tea. After opening it, Mu Bing was stunned instantly. This is enlightenment tea. Mu Bing exclaimed. The 3 of them smiled slightly when they saw Mu Bing's surprised look. At first, when they saw enlightenment tea, they were shocked beyond words. However, they were completely numb now. These things, for them, were peerless treasures. For the young master, it's just for drinking, not worth mentioning. God, there are at least a few thousand pieces of enlightenment tea. If you take it out, aren't you afraid of being robbed by me? Mu Bing said. Chen Daoming smiled and didn't care at all. Since the young master asked me to keep it, it must have been calculated by him, and no one can take it away. If you don't believe it, you can try it. Chen Daoming said. This. Mu Bing thought of Sun Hao's supreme existence and lost her mind instantly. Calculate everything and plan ahead. The divine beast as his pet, demon immortal as his servant. He even dared to eat the ancient dragons. If she dared to took it away, it was probably that she would vanish in an instant if she just made moves. Fellow Taoist Mu, since the young master gave this thing, I will naturally not take it alone. A few of us set a rule. Only when we achieve a certain level of merit, we can reward enlightenment tea or even immortal tea. Everyone is the same, you see. How about my proposal? Chen Daoming asked. Yes. Luo Luyen nodded. Why don't we call ourselves the Evil Suppressing Alliance? Collect thousands of disciples. This proposal is good, and the details must be carefully considered. In that case, let's sit down and discuss together. How? Luo Luyen said. Good. They sat down and began to study it carefully. Time passed by little, and in a blink of an eye, it was a day already. After a day of discussion, the rules of the Evil Suppressing Alliance were first completed for future revisions, for people need to discuss and vote for approval unanimously. Mu Bing walked out of the Jade Lake Palace, her whole body trembling slightly with excitement. This line was right. Forge a good relationship with the young master. This was the beginning of good fortune. Probably, I will become an immortal in the near future. Mu Bing breathed a sigh of relief at the thought of this. She flew up and returned to the flying boat. Go. With an order, the flying boat started to move. Time flies, and it was 2 days in an instant. Supreme Court, West Courtyard, in a secret room. Mu Bing sat inside and was talking. Opposite her sat a white-haired old man. He was the dean of the West Courtyard of the Supreme Court, Wen Renshi. Wen Renshi calmed his face, and as Mu Bing explained, he became more and more shocked. There was a demon immortal in the pond, the pet was a divine beast, the warehouse was full of spirit weapons, and the picture gave a good fortune, do everything and make arrangements in advance. Every method was extremely against the sky. The most horrible thing, he even ate the ancient dragon. In this world, there was such supreme existence. This godly cunning immortal was so terrifying and highly against the sky. When Renshi opened his mouth and didn't close it for a long time. PSST, when Renshi gasped, and it took a long time to calm down. As you say so, godly cunning immortal doesn't care about fame and fortune. Moreover, deliberately suppressing with Buddha, let others suspect that it is the heaven, I am afraid it has profound meaning, and he doesn't want people to find him. Xiao Bing, you can't tell outsiders about him. If someone asks, you can say that it is the work of a master of Buddhism and Taoism. Blasted into stone said. Dean, I understand. Mu Bing nodded heavily. However, what about Jade Lake Palace? This is what many cultivators have seen. That can't be helped. Let them talk about it, saying that it was the gods and treacherous people who took the initiative to suppress it. However, the residence of the godly cunning immortal must not be revealed to others. Wen Rencher said. Yes, Dean. Mu Bing nodded. Xiao Bing, then tell about the godly cunning immortal test. Wen Rencher said. Mu Bing nodded and said, the young master has 3 tests. First, made me join Luo Luyen and Qin Daoming to recruit the world's cultivators and eradicate the evil race. Hearing this then, when Rencher's eyes gleamed, so, I can also become a pawn in the hands of the young master. Yes. The second is to recruit 3 disciples. After discussion, we learned that the young master's condition on accepting disciples. That is, whoever can kill the lord of the evil race will become his disciple. Mu Bing said. What, the lord of the evil race? When Rencher's face showed a trace of fear. 10,000 years ago, the evil race leader was infinitely close to the existence of immortals and might even have become immortals. With his own strength, it is equivalent to hitting a rock with a pebble. It seemed that it was impossible to become the young master's disciple. Third, it's a personal test. The young master now lacks black vein immortal gold, so, Dean, can you? Mu Bing lowered her head with a look of shame. It was so thick skin to ask the Dean for the immortal gold. No problem, take all my immortal gold. Wen Rencher said. What? Mu Bing's face was full of disbelief. Dean, that's the treasure you have collected for many years. And you have given it to me. It's not very good. What's wrong? After Wen Rencher said that, he immediately took out 8 pieces of black vein immortal gold from the space ring and handed them to Mu Bing. What's a few pieces of immortal gold? Wen Rencher's face didn't show the slightest pain. Dean, this is the black vein immortal gold you have collected over the past 500 years. Now you took all of it. Don't you feel distressed? Mu Bing said. It's my blessing to be able to see things like this. How can I be stingy? Wen Rencher said. Thank you, Dean. Mu Bing clasped her fists. Well, hurry up and send it to the young master, don't let him wait too long. Wen Rencher said. Yes, Dean. After speaking, Mu Bing walked out. Wait. Wen Rencher shouted. Dean, what else do you have to order? Mu Bing said. The young master has given you such good luck by letting you send it alone, and it is a bit disrespectful. Let the old man go with you. This just seems sincere. Perhaps, the young master will give the next instructions. Wen Rencher said. Yes, Dean. Then, Wen Rencher followed Mu Bing and left at great speed. Chapter 68. The Godly Cunning Immortal is a supreme existence. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. What? Are they all dead? A man without skin on his head let out an angry shout. His 2 blood-red eyes, sharp and deep, made people afraid to look directly. He was the patriarch of the corpse puppet clan, Mohan. Patriarch, the soul lights of the 4 great war generals are all broken. On the ground, a man was bowing down. Damn it. Mohan clenched his fists, and his joints exploded. The 4 great war generals were one of their best men. He just listened to the command of the evil lord's lord and asked them to arrest that godly cunning immortal. Unexpectedly, they were gone forever. Even the escaped talisman could not save them. It seems that the godly cunning immortal was far from being as simple as imagined. Now, that was trouble. Patriarch, what should I do now? Do you want to release the drought? Let it go to destroy the godly cunning immortal. No, Mohan directly refused. Hitorigami is the card of our family, and it will never be used until it is absolutely necessary. It is absolutely wrong without finding out the residence of the enemy and attacking rashly. If you want to do it, you must kill him with one blow and don't give him any chance to turn over. In addition, the group of bald donkeys, 1, came out again and started destroying our good deeds. This is the biggest headache. Find out the bald donkeys that are hiding in the dark and kill them all. Mohan said. The patriarch is wise. Okay, step back. Time was fast, and it was another 2 days in a blink of an eye. These days, a major event spread throughout the western regions. It was the attack on Jade Lake Palace by the 4 evil corpse puppet clans. In a city, a tea house. A bunch of cultivators surrounded a storyteller. The scholars seriously listened to his eloquent and gushing story. Do you know? This time, it's the 4 famous kings of the corpse, and the means is simply heaven. Defying. When they flick their fingers, the whole Jade Lake Palace becomes dim, and the wind blows. These winds blow on the immortals and directly blow them into flying ash. Countless cultivators fall like wheat. Attacked by the 4 kings, the Jade Lake Palace can't resist. At this critical moment, these 4 kings even dare to attack the saintess of the Jade Lake Palace. The saintess of Jade Lake Palace is only 20 years old. How can she be the opponent of these 4 kings? Seeing that the saintess will die in their hands. At this critical moment, guess what? The storyteller picked up his teacup and took a sip. Come on, drink tea at a critical moment. It will be too appetizing. Yes, yes. In the face of assertions from the group of cultivators, the storyteller just smiled. Everyone, I haven't eaten today. I really have no strength. Let's talk about it another day. Do you want money? Is a spirit stone enough? I will give one, too. A moment later, a lot of spirit stone were piled in front of the storyteller. Since you are generous, you will lay down your life to accompany the gentleman, so you will not eat this meal. Then, the storyteller continued to speak. At this critical juncture, God has come. He is 10,000 meters tall, like an indomitable spirit. With a flick of his hand, the bodies of the 4 kings cracked and turned into dust. Even the ecstasy was held by the gods and smashed into pieces. What? They didn't even escape. God is too tough. It's great that my human race should have such strong people. This immortal is supreme. Scenes like this were staged in various cities in the western regions. Even taking the western regions as the center, it spread all around. The name of God's mysterious Taoist priest had quickly spread to the ears of everyone who cultivated immortals and had become a beacon in many people's hearts. Xuanhuan naturally didn't know about this. At the moment, he was standing on the top of the stone tower, overlooking the 4 sides. In front, in the great demon mountains, the clouds were shrouded. It seemed that the atmosphere was magnificent, and it had a kind of immortal home feeling. The scenery in this great demon mountains is really endless. Xuanhuan said. The young master said that the big demon mountain changes, and every moment is unique. Xuanhuan nodded. Rumeng, with you around, no scenery is as good as yours. Xuanhuan said. Young master. Xuanhuan blushed and bowed her head shyly. It is a blessing for Rumeng to be with you. Rumeng, having you by my side is also my blessing. Xuanhuan said. Young master. Xuanhuan moved her face slightly, jumping to Xuanhuan's arms. They embraced each other. Xuanhuan caressed her hair. At this time. Bang, a loud ring, a hairpin on Xuanhuan's head, fell to the ground and broke into 2 pieces. It was finally broken. Xuanhuan herself couldn't hear the sound. It was Fan Zhao who was imprisoned in the hairpins that made this sound. After working hard day and night, he finally wiped out the tribulation thunder light and escaped. The old man is finally free, so he doesn't have to be trapped in a hairpin. All this, thanks to the two of them, play the guqin every day to help me break through. From today, the old man is a free man. After he said that, Fan Zhao turned into a transparent shadow, escaped from the hairpin. However, shout, a giant hand fell from the sky. Terrorist pressure, like the 9. Heaven's prison, pressed the Fan Zhao so that he was unable to move. This is impossible. My strength, in front of him, is not even qualified to move. No, don't press me into the hairpin, don't. He was struggling crazily. But it was useless. He was pressed into the hairpin and could not move. The power of terror was shrouding in hairpins. Now, let alone escape from the hairpin. Even struggling in the hairpin can't do it. Finished, completely finished. Fan Zhao was in despair. He no longer moved. He looked at Sun Hao, and his eyes were full of horror. He really is supreme existence. Even my ancestors are not qualified to be his dog. How could he be here? Is the old ancestor planning those things? Maybe. When he thought like that, there was despair on his face. Is it cracked? Sun Hao picked up the hairpin on the ground, held it in his hand, and looked at it carefully. It's okay, young master. Huang Rumeng said. Rumeng, I'll make you another one. Sun Hao said. Hearing these words, Huang Rumeng showed strange lights. It's very kind of you, young master. This little thing is not worth mentioning. Take me down. Sun Hao said. Yes, right away. The two people fell to the ground, Sun Hao straight to strike while the iron was hot. In less than half an hour, a spring was created. Then, he went to the carving room, selected 2 good pieces of wood, and carved them into 2 parts. After installing the spring, it became a hairpin. It's almost done. It should be inlaid with a few beads, which is even better. By the way, the gem that was given to me last time is gorgeous, and it is just right to be a set on it. However, those are used to decorate the room. Rumeng, where did she find them? Ask her to look for it again. Maybe she can find a few. Sun Hao picked up 2 hairpins and looked at them for a while. The hair clips made by himself look much better. No, don't, Fan Zhao struggled frantically below. His body was torn into little bits, and when he was imprisoned in another hairpin. Although he didn't die, he didn't want to bear the pain of being shredded. Damn it, and I can only be imprisoned in it for the rest of my life. Fan Zhao was mumbling. His face showed despair. This new hairpin was ultimately a prison. Don't say with his strength now, even if he was 10,000 times stronger, no, 100 million times stronger, he couldn't escape. At least, the supreme existence didn't kill me. He trapped me in it. Is it for me to do something for him? If so, isn't this your own creation? Thinking like this, he rekindled his light of hope. Refers to the monks, I believe. Chapter 69. Young Master has new instructions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rumeng, the hairpin is ready. Sun Hao took the hairpin in front of Huang Rumeng. Young Master. Huang Rumeng's eyes flickered, staring at Sun Hao in a daze. She tried to take the hairpin from Sun Hao, but she couldn't take it at all. Rumeng, there are still a few beads missing. Sun Hao pointed to the holes on the hairpin. The gems you looked for last time, are there any more? Demon Core Crystal. Huang Rumeng secretly said, instantly understanding Sun Hao's intentions. Young Master, please wait for a moment. I will look for it immediately. Okay, find more of them. Sun Hao said. Okay, young master. After she said that, Huang Rumeng came to the backyard, her figure flashed and disappeared instantly. Young master, are you home? A voice came from the front yard shortly after Huang Rumeng left. Hearing this, Sun Hao's eyes flashed with brilliance. Cultivator. It seems to be Miss Mu Bing. Did she find a disciple for me? Sun Hao's face was full of joy. Since the last time they left, he had only received more than 4,000 blessing points in the past few days. These blessing points were a bit inexplicable. It seemed it was obtained while they were drinking tea. There was no rule at all in reaping blessing points. The only regularity was to give items to the cultivators. Sun Hao opened the door and saw the old man next to Mu Bing, a flash of joy, fleeting. I have seen the young master. Mu Bing respectfully saluted after seeing Sun Hao. Miss Mu Bing, who is this? Sun Hao asked. Young master, this is our dean, Wen Renshi. Mu Bing said. It turns out to be Senior Wen. Sun Hao clasped his fists. Young master, I dare not. Wen Renshi waved his hand again and again. Please, you can call me Old One. Old One. Is this all right? Seeing his crane-shaped hair and white beard, he must be an expert. Even so, he is easy to talk to. Since the other party requested it, he could only call him like that. Old One, Miss Mu, please come inside. Sun Hao said with a pleased gesture. Thank you, young master. When Renshi held his fist, took out 8 pieces of black vein immortal gold, and handed it to Sun Hao respectfully. Young master, this is a little gift, with due respect. Please accept it. When Renshi looked nervous, as well as anxious. To be honest, how could a character like the young master like this kind of inferior immortal items? You have come from far and brought gifts. It's so polite. Sun Hao's face was full of smiles. Holding the black vein immortal gold, he kept looking and nodded in satisfaction. With so much black iron, he could refine 2 daggers even more. He could even refine 2 long swords. What would you like to give them something later? By the way, since they give me black iron, I will refine 2 long swords for them, which can be regarded as a token from him and used for him. They are not easy to refuse. It's amazing. Thinking of this, Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth. Seeing Wen Renshi's eyes in this scene, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The young master accepted it and was very happy. It was good fortune to make the young master satisfied. Young master, we still have something to do, so let's say goodbye. Wen Renshi said. It's still early. Let's have a cup of tea before leaving. Sun Hao said. Thank you, young master, no need. Wen Renshi said. Why are you leaving? It doesn't take long for a cup of tea. Since you are already here, how could it be so easy to let you go? Facing this group of cultivators, as long as he pulled down his face, they would be honest and obedient. Really, when Renshi saw Sun Hao's face slightly changed. Unable to numb his scalp, he hurriedly clasped his fists. Yes, young master. Please come inside. Sun Hao said. Good. The 2 followed. When Renshi's expression was tense, and he did not dare to come out for fear of offending the demon in the pond. He glanced at the 1,000 colors lotus demon from the corner of his light, and his face changed drastically. That was an extremely terrifying existence. Just glance at it from the corner of the eye, and his heart sank into hell, and his whole body turned to cold. Too frightening. Despite being mentally prepared, this sight also scared Wen Renshi enough. Qua, a duck cry sounded. Hearing this, his body trembled in fright. Mu Bing mentioned this cry many times. He didn't even dare to lift his head and followed Sun Hao all the way. Humph, the old man is in front of your eyes. Don't you deserve to look straight? At this moment, a voice sounded in his mind. Like the 9 gods of thunder, when Renshi's face changed drastically in fright. His face was flushed and turned pale. Senior, I don't dare. Wen Renshi said. Does this have anything to do with dare? Hurry up. Yes, senior. Wen Renshi raised his head. When he saw Yu, his pupils shrank, and his heart was beating sharply. It really was the nine heavens god Luan. Before releasing the coercion, he was not at all antagonistic. The young master is really a supreme existence. It was scary. Fortunately, he was prepared to do enough. Otherwise, he must be scared to death. Qua, Inu surrounded Sun Hao, rubbing around from time to time. In addition to the shock, Wen Renshi couldn't tolerate anything else in his heart. You two, please sit down for a while. I'll get the tea. After Sun Hao finished speaking, he walked to the back room. Wen Renshi sat in the pavilion. His expression was nervous. He didn't even dare to appreciate the beautiful surroundings. He felt that he was in a group of horrible bigwigs, stared at by countless pairs of eyes. At this moment, his back was sweating, and roots stood up. Xiao Bing, the young master, is such a terrifying existence. The tea you drink is not ordinary, isn't it? It took a long time for Wen Renshi to feel better and use the divine sense to transmit sound. Of course, if it is correct, the young master drank at least supreme spirit tea or even enlightenment tea. Mu Bing said. How is this possible? Enlightenment tea tree, there is only one in this world, and it has only produced dozens of tea leaves for 3,000 years. Wen Renshi said. Mu Bing smiled slightly and did not speak. Dean, you will be surprised. After a while, Sun Hao came quickly. In his hand, he was holding a bag of tea leaves. Old one, Miss Mu, it's your first time drinking tea, then drink the Hongpo. After speaking, Sun Hao opened the tea leaves. At this moment, Wen Renshi was stunned entirely in place. The corners of his mouth trembled, and his voice trembled. This, so many enlightenment teas, my God. Isn't there just one enlightenment tea tree in the whole world? There are at least a few thousand pieces. How many years have you collected? At least hundreds of thousands of years have been collected. In this way. Has the young master lived for hundreds of thousands of years? No wonder he is so powerful. Hiss. What, take dozens of pieces at a time? I must be dreaming. Wen Renshi's heart beat violently as if to jump out of his throat. Immediately, he could drink enlightenment tea by himself, and it was still enlightenment tea with dozens of tea leaves. May I ask the whole world, who else? If it weren't for the young master's presence, at this moment, he would surely roar with excitement. It took a long time for Wen Renshi to restrain the beating heart and calm down a little. Compared with Wen Renshi, Mu Bing was not much better. When she saw Sun Hao grabbing dozens of tea leaves, her body trembled, and she was very excited. After a long time, she calmed down. Young master, why didn't I see Miss Ruming? Mu Bing asked. She helped me find the beads. Sun Hao said. As the words came out, they shook their bodies. The young master needed beads. This was a new instruction. It may have something to do with the evil race, so you must keep it in mind. The two looked at each other and nodded secretly. Young master, do you want me to help Miss Ruming look for it? Mu Bing asked. No, you guys have tea first. Look at it. The tea is ready. Chapter 70. Supreme Refining Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After drinking tea, there was joy on Wen Renshi and Mu Bing's faces. This time drinking tea, their comprehension had improved 100-fold. From now on, there will be no more obstacles in cultivating. The young master gave all these great fortunes. Such a great favor was unforgettable, so the two looked at Sun Hao gratefully. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao just smiled slightly. Cultivators. So what? In front of his own tea ceremony, they obediently grabbed his hands. Old one, Miss Mu, are you using long swords? Sun Hao asked. Yes, young master. The two people nod together. Can you show it to me? Sun Hao asked. Sure. The two took out their swords and handed them to Sun Hao. Sun Hao drew out the long sword and looked up and down. Then, his mouth slightly raised. These two long swords were rough in artistry and couldn't compare to even his waste products. Maybe even the wood was hard to cut. It just so happened to create two new ones for them. If they don't accept it, that's not a big deal. Just pull my face down. At this thought, Sun Hao's mouth rose. You too, come with me. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. The two stood up, followed Sun Hao, and came to the forging room together. Seeing the scene inside, the two of them were stunned. Howl, the terrifying coercion blew like a violent wind. The bodies of the two of them were so heavy that they couldn't breathe well, and their faces were pale. Spirit. It's all spirit weapons. When Renshi and Shi looked at the forging room, their expressions changed drastically, and they hid behind Sun Hao. In this way, they felt much better. Old one, Miss Mu, wait a minute. After speaking, Sun Hao took out the black-veined immortal gold and threw it into the stove. Immediately afterwards, he started the furnace. Swoosh, a raging flame, rising in the air. The black-veined immortal gold, at speed visible to the naked eye, turned to red. Seeing this scene, when Renshi's face changed drastically, immortal fire, this is immortal fire. It is definitely the supreme immortal fire to burn the black-veined immortal gold in such a short time. When Renshi was shocked. His whole person was scared and silly. He stared blankly at Sun Hao, who picked up the hammer, and started forging. Ding, a metal symphony sounded. The black-veined immortal gold, trembling violently, spread out quickly. 90% of the impurities on it were removed. With one hammer, 90% of impurities were removed. Unheard of, unseen. This seemingly simple hammer was actually earth-shattering. When Renshi had a feeling that if this hammer hits the west courtyard of the Supreme Court, I am afraid that the whole west courtyard would be leveled to the ground. Ding! Another hammer. All impurities were removed. The hammer in Sun Hao's hand, like a whirlwind, beat up quickly. With each hammer, 1 point was not much power, but 1 point was not much strength. When Renshi looked at this scene, his eyes changed rapidly. At this moment, he was the only one left in the entire world. In other words, he was the whole world. He reached the miraculous realm of the unity of man and nature in the legend. A kind of immortal skill, rapidly condensed in his mind. After a long time, he woke up from the unity of nature and man. This is the legendary heavenly hammer technique. This is an immortal skill. I actually realized that it was successful, and I was able to change it into a heavenly sword. When Renshi clenched his fist, and his body trembled with excitement. This line of good fortune was simply unimaginable. The hope to become immortal was ignited. Young master, thank you. In the future, if you have any assignments, please feel free to do so. When Renshi looked at Sun Hao with a grateful expression on his face. Sun Hao continued to wield the hammer in his hand and continued beating. A quarter of an hour later, two swords were formed. They were jet black and exuding a sharp metallic luster. The total time added up to less than half an hour. Sun Hao held the two long swords. Old one, Miss Mu, you have been waiting for a long time. Are you satisfied with these two long swords? Sun Hao handed the two swords to the two of them. When Renshi was surprised. He picked up one of them and looked at it carefully. His eyes were full of shocks. This is an immortal weapon. My God! Young master refining technique is earth-shattering. When Renshi kept looking at it, but he couldn't confirm its specific rank after exhausting his own methods. One thing can be guaranteed. It was definitely an immortal weapon. Only with black-veined immortal gold, you could forge an immortal weapon. No one in the world could match this refining technique. Any refiner in front of the young master was just a joke. The sword is absolutely flawless and perfect. Wen Renshi said. The corner of Sun Hao's mouth raised, and his face was proud. Supreme refining, that was no joke. It seemed that the weapons used by the cultivators were also very common. Do I need to open a weapon shop in the world of cultivators? No way. The world of cultivators is too dangerous, and the evil race is so terrible. If another evil race jumps out, what should it do? It was safe to stay in the mountains. Since you like them, they are yours, Sun Hao said. Young master, how can this be? When the two heard this, their expressions changed drastically. How dare they collect such immortal artifacts? This thing is absolutely unacceptable. The two waved their hands again and again. What? Do you look down on my two swords? Sun Hao pulled his face and pretended to be angry. The faces of the two changed drastically. Young master, you are misunderstood. I don't mean it here. Since you want to send it to us, then we'll gladly accept it. Thank you, young master. They too took a long sword, held it in their hands, and looked carefully. Ding, the blessing points plus 500. Ding, the blessing points plus 200. Hearing these two sounds, the corner of Sun Hao's mouth raised, his heart darkened. These cultivators are really weird. If I pull down my face a little, they will change their look with fear, then accept my gifts obediently. Am I really the supreme boss? Dream on. Sun Hao secretly shook his head and put the idea away. But, on the whole, this method of harvesting the blessing point was really comfortable. Good sword, good sword. Wen Renshi held the long sword and kept exclaiming. Suddenly, Master! A voice rang in his mind. Wen Renshi's body was startled. He couldn't believe it. Spirit. But also a newborn spirit. And recognize me as the master. At this moment, Wen Renshi completely shocked the place. Once the newborn spirit recognizes the master, it would only follow the original master and never betray. Unless the original owner died, then it would be subdued by a powerful immortal cultivator. This nascent spirit had infinite possibilities. Moreover, there was a perfect space for shaping. In other words, this immortal sword in his hand was capable of growth. Buzz, when Renshi gasped, his body trembling slightly with excitement. This kind of immortal sword can't be changed after the whole Supreme Court was sold. The young master even gave them two swords. What did this mean? When Renshi thought secretly, his heart getting more and more uneasy. Ugh, the young master has been experiencing as immortal, it's hard to ask directly, it's really a headache. I don't know. What does he mean? Wen Renshi frowned and thought. On the other hand, compared with Wen Renshi, Mu Bing was no better than him. She holds her sword as if she were touching a child. After a long time, the two people calmed down, with anxious expressions on their faces. They held their fists respectfully at Sun Hao. Thank you, young master, today we have something to do, so let's say goodbye. Since the two have something to do, I won't hold you to stay, remember to come often. Definitely, definitely. Looking at Wen Renshi and Mu Bing disappeared, Sun Hao looked back. It's a good harvest today. This Wen Renshi is a big fish. If he often comes in the future, it would be great. Sun Hao opened the panel and saw that the blessing points had reached 15,380 points. One step away from 1,000,000 points. In this way, it won't take long to gather 1 million, and gain supreme physique, and start the road to cultivation.